Well, hello there, and welcome to this BC Strategies podcast. On this podcast, we are, as a group, going to recap the highlights that we saw for 2024 as the year kind of comes to a bit of an end. And we're going to give everybody 2 minutes to do this. I think I'll start first. So to keep me honest, I'll start a timer now. So. For me, obviously, we're all going to mention AI. I get to go first, so I get to say it first. But, it really was a year of AI excitement, experimentation, I think expectations, confusion, and, quite frankly, some of this confusion led to some disappointment. Really, with all this experimentation and all the vendors announced new capabilities, for me, it was a year where the gap between what people are actually deploying into production and some of the demos that we saw, whether it was in the contact center space, lots of great demos, agents, lots of great demos, but there's a giant gap really created. Hopefully the gap will get kind of shrunken into 2025, but really there's a lot of possibilities, but there wasn't a lot of actual production, more experimentation. The things that stood out for me were, if I look at, Zoom brought out their AI Companion 2.0. That was pretty noteworthy because they did it in a way that was pretty accessible, didn't cost you more money. And then they did an interesting thing where they let you integrate their AI Companion, even if you're using Microsoft Exchange for your mail or Outlook for your calendaring. So I thought that was pretty cool. WebEx brought out something that might sound boring, the WebEx AI codec, but really I thought that this was super interesting because fundamentally, while everybody wants to talk about AI, if you don't get the audio right, then you don't get the speech to text right, and then you get the transcription wrong, and then of course the AI is kind of like garbage in, garbage out. So it's nice to see vendors still focusing on the non-generative, in a sense, piece of AI, the AI that just really is powering noise cancellation and making audio just be better. And with that, Microsoft created lots of pieces. My time is up. They had Copilot everything. So that was really what I saw, lots of experimentation and lots of AI, but not a lot of deployment. So with that, I will go over to my colleague, Chuck Vondra. So Chuck, how did you see 2024?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So when I talk about my 2024 trends, I guess these aren't trends that just started on January 1, but they were maybe trends that were starting to swell up, but maybe became mega trends in 2024. So I've got 4 of them. I'll pack them into my 2 minutes. And so I'm going to talk about what I saw and what does it mean. And it's going to mean something different to everybody. If you're a consultant, an analyst, an end user, an IT professional, it's probably going to affect you differently, but the fact of what happened exists for all of us. So I won't disappoint. I will talk about AI. And I guess one of the things I'm noticing is what I'll call AI-ification. Everybody is AIing their brand. I've seen a lot of companies now that all they did was just put AI at the end of their name, and suddenly they're AI experts, they're AI thought leaders, and I chuckle a little bit, but I guess that's the way we go. And the analogy that I sort of draw from that is about 5 or 6 years ago, I had to take my daughter down to the driver's license factory where she got her license, took her test, got her license, and off she went. And I was amazed at the line of kids. They were churning them out almost like a factory. And I thought to myself, holy smokes, every 5 minutes a new kid's driving off the lot with their license. Who's training these people? Who's working with them? They're all going to be out on the road interfacing with the rest of us, but are they getting the proper training and guidance like I gave my daughter? So I guess my concern and my trend there is we're throwing AI out there, we're putting it on our names, but who's helping people really use it properly? So that's trend number 1. It's out there, but where's the training? Where's the manual? I think to your point, Kevin, is it as real as it needs to be? Second trend is sort of what I'm going to consider the legacy versus the startup of the players out there. And you got the Avayas, the NECs, and I'm seeing a battle sort of, and it reminds me of a Jonathan Swift book, The Battle of the Books, where the classics and the ancients duked it out in the library. And I'm starting to watch this play out. And I won't get too deep into it given the time constraints, but I'm thinking the new startups are winning the battle. When you look at where Avaya is going, where NEC is going, the legacy players trying to compete, the ancients, they're not winning the battle. That may turn around.
Well, Chuck, though, wait a second. So your 2 minutes, it's like your 2 minutes is up. So there you go. We'll have to circle back for Megatrends 3 and 4. This is this great experiment of can the BC Strategies Experts recap the year in 2 minutes? So far, I failed, and well, you got through 2 trends. That was
I got
good.
halfway
So
there.
let's see how Blair does. Right. So go for it, Blair.
Okay, well, first, I totally agree with what Chuck said. Everyone talking about being AI first. It's like, we saw this, a few years ago with, everything was .com and then everything was as a service. Now everything is AI. So that's going to go away. So I'm basically going to recap the article I just posted on No Jitter because that kind of talks about some of the main things I saw over the past year. But one is CCaaS is dead and everything now is CX. All the contact center vendors, you don't hear about CCaaS anymore. Everything is CX, whether it is or not. We can talk about that and what really is CX. Does it include marketing and sales? But all the CCaaS vendors are now CX they're not only just CX, they're CX platforms. Everything is a platform. It has to integrate. It has APIs. So CCaaS is dead. Everything now is a CX platform. So that's one. The other, talking about AI, of course, what I said is what was once cutting edge or what was cutting edge a year ago is now table stakes. When ChatGPT, first happened, there was some, pretty interesting capabilities and use cases. Summarization, for the contact center was interaction summarization and agent assist and everything. And we saw some really cool demos like a year and a half ago or a year ago, showing, how they do this, transcription and summarization and really delving deep into it. Now everybody has it. And it's, if you don't have it, you're missing out. So I think the fact that, things that were cutting edge are now table stakes and everybody has it, everyone has a co-pilot, or whether they call it an assistant or a companion or whatever. So the thing is finding that differentiator is really hard. And so I think that's going to be the next thing that we can talk about in our next podcast, talking about what's going to happen next year, is that companies are going to try to really figure out how they're going to differentiate. And that I think is going to be really interesting. Did I do my time okay?
You did the best of all of us so far.
All
Good
right.
job.
It's that fast talking New York in me.
There you go. No, it's hard. It's hard to recap a whole year. So, okay. So let's go to Dave Michels, who's sitting in the darkest room, but hopefully has the brightest ideas.
There you go. Interesting year. Not a great year, but an interesting year. I think this is really a big reset year. 2024, everything, surprising amount of resets, and we're starting a new chapter, really, in many ways. Leadership changes. The NICE CEO was announced. Change hasn't happened yet, but it was announced a while back. Twilio changed. Avaya leadership changed. The Cisco WebEx whole leadership team changed. RingCentral started off with a different CEO, and then it has his old one back. Dialpads had a whole bunch of leadership changes. Calabrios had a whole bunch of changes. Even No Jitter is kind of changing dramatically, and so just a tremendous amount of leadership changes in the industry, all in 24 or close to 24. Blair mentioned the CCaaS, the CX change, and so that's really kind of redefining and resetting customer engagement and where we're at with that space. All these AI changes, table stakes, what is AI? That's all changing dramatically. So we're just having a big reset. Everything that we were counting on for the past 10 years is incremental changes. It's just like completely resetting this year. Hybrid work in the future. We talked for years about the future of work and the hybrid office and things like space management, where we work, how we work, dramatically changed post-pandemic. what is the new normal. It's funny, no one really talks about the future of work anymore, but the future of work kind of arrived and everything's kind of changing. So just a big reset year. And then one other theme within that is the rise of Teams, right? So Microsoft Teams was kind of a new product pre-pandemic, blossomed during the pandemic, and now it's a Teams world. And I wrote a post in No Jitter about comparing it to the Bell Monopoly. In some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse. But we're back to where, one vendor really controlling the entire enterprise communication space in so many ways. We just covered Microsoft Ignite, and almost every vendor that we covered, Enterprise Connect, was basically either announcing or exhibiting at Ignite. So just a very big resetting of our industry.
That was good. You did a good job. So that was perfect timing, and a year of reset. I liked that was a new theme. So let's go. Whoops, you don't have 15 seconds left. Let's go to Martha next on the board.
So I've got three things. Blair and I have talked about one of them extensively, and that is that litigation over AI errors is happening. It's starting. And it will continue and it will grow, and we don't exactly know in which direction it's going, but certainly privacy rules and rules from the European Union are going to govern and going to be enforced. So I suspect there will be more lawsuits, and some of them will be successful. I will also tell you very personally that this is the time of year that I'm changing my health insurance, and I am changing my health insurance from one provider to another because the AI contact center is so bad. I will not call them again, and I'm moving my business elsewhere. And I can't believe that I'm alone in that regard. I understand that toll quality has gone the way of the dodo bird, but if I can't hear or can't understand who's speaking to me, that's a big turnoff. I mean, it doesn't matter what business you're in; it's really only and all about service. So those are two, and then the third is that while I had hopes that net neutrality would be back, it looks like that's not going to happen, at least not during the next 4 years, and that's too bad. But broadband deployment will continue to be built out. It will just be the Verizons and Comcast of the world will have more power than the municipalities that are trying to extend those services to underserved communities.
Wow, with time to spare. Well, thank you for that quick recap of 2024. And let us now go to Joseph Williams. Joseph, how was 2024? What stood out for you?
Well, thanks, Kevin. I only had 2 enterprise clients the entire year. They both focused on customer care, customer experience, contact center things. One was in Europe, one was in the US. And to Martha's point, the people in Europe are way more concerned about privacy than the people in the US are. There's also a substantive concern about cybersecurity. But anyway, so my comments are really in the context of contact centers, customer experience. And I will say that the AI investments did not pay off. The ROI on these investments have been very poor. There's all kinds of evidence that they have fallen far short of what the CIO sold to the board. And so people like myself who are metrics focused, how do you measure ROI and that kind of stuff? We're kind of busy right now because there are a lot of concerns about how this is not playing out. The vendors have completely overstated their capabilities and the ease at which their programs are actually implemented. So that's the whole thing. Third thing, and because that's first is contact center, second is AI falling short. Third thing is the actual model improvement themselves, Kevin, is not there. If you look at Orion, the new AI ChatGPT model, it's not substantially improving, and looks like all the models are topping out. And when you look at the cost of actually running these models, it's another ROI problem, and it's one that I'm seeing a lot of concern about. And then last but not least, going back to Martha, I live in the government space. The regulation of AI, the legal consequence of AI is huge. California is obsessing on it. EU is obsessing on it. I think 38 states have some kind of study underway to figure out whether they should be regulating AI. So it's the year of AI, and it's slowed down, and the government has stepped in. That's my summary.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's what I was talking about, experimentation. You probably said it more eloquently. Yeah, the metrics, people now have the metrics and they're not as favorable as they would hope to be. So there is that expectation gap that is going to have to get sorted out as we head into 2025. So thanks for your insights there. And Blair in the private chat said we should probably do a podcast shortly that focuses on that, just that whole kind of gap in terms of what the investment piece from AI and what the returns are. So look for kind of that as a theme as a podcast for 2025. And certainly not last. Well, he is last, but he's not least. Jon Arnold, how was 2024? What themes haven't we covered on that you want to amplify and drill into?
Well played, Kevin. We start with the guy in Canada. We finish with the guy in Canada. And everyone else in the middle is just noise. Yeah. So I would also say, I don't know if I've ever seen this particular collection of people on one call at one time ever before. So bravo for getting that. So aside from what's been said already, I'm glad, Dave, you pointed out that, the ascendancy of Teams has really set the landscape for so many things in this space. Just a few things that are related to some of these topics already, especially to what Martha and Joseph have been saying. At the beginning of the year, when I talked about 2024 outlook, one of my thoughts was that we'll see some pushback against AI because it's going too fast, too many unintended consequences, etc. We haven't seen that in a huge way yet, but like what Martha is saying, with some of the lawsuits that are coming, especially with the EU AI Act, those are big things that are kind of starting to put some guardrails in place that have teeth. Not so much in the US yet. That's a different kettle of fish, though, for sure. And to Joseph's point about, the ROI just isn't there yet, because I've done lots of podcasts and interviews recently about how the cost of AI is going nowhere but up, and the benefits are really getting hard to see. So the pushback that I hoped for this year is kind of taking forms more subtly. But I think as consumers and users of AI, we may see different forms of pushback if things like deep fakes start to get really out of control and people just make too many bad decisions based on things they think are real but really aren't. Also, technology-wise, Dave, I think you'd agree with this. I think 2024 video has become a big trend this year that's kind of eclipsing a lot of other things. I think we could all raise our hands and say it's probably easier to talk like we're doing now than to sit down and write an article. And I think with ChatGPT doing a lot of the writing for everybody now, I think video is going to, again, Dave, to your point about the collab space, the way we work changing, being more collaborative and team-based, etc. Video and immersive experiences in the office, I think, driven by video technologies underlying with AI, are going to just get bigger and bigger. And one other thing that points to some of the stuff Martha was saying, one of my big concerns, yes, with Teams being so dominant, but with AI running everything now, this is the world of the hyperscalers. They have all the cards now. Everything is dependent on Amazon, Google, Azure, Oracle, all the big cloud players. And with everything feeding into that ecosystem, we're just kind of like living in their world now, because that's where all the data is. And without getting political, with a change of administration coming in into January, it's favoring big tech, and there's going to be less teeth from the regulatory side to rein in the big tech players. So they're going to claim, well, we need this for innovation. But on the other hand, the regulation in the EU, they take a different approach. And I agree with you totally, Joseph. The US doesn't really have a handle on this yet, and we're so private market focused on these things. I think it's going to be very difficult in 2025 to get some kind of sanity in balance between where the big players are taking things and whether we're just along for the ride or we actually have a say in how things are going to go. And last thing, AI, I think 2024. Wait, okay, cut me off. Cut me off.
No, I have to.
That's
Even
it.
though I already
Oops.
gave you the minus 15 seconds. We're trying. So that was a good
Ding.
experiment. Even though my fellow Canadian, I gave you the extra, because Canadian time is worth less than US time, 30% less, right?
Well,
So
there's that.
40%. 40%.
40%
Exactly.
less. There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
So I gave you that extra.
It was
Into
41
US.
yesterday.
Pardon me?
It was 41% yesterday.
Oh, there you go. So that's why it's like Canadians, it's good to do business with U.S. companies because we get that extra kind of bonus. But so that is a great recap. Thank you, BC Strategies Experts, for playing along with the 2 minutes. That was the year 2024, and I'm going to say it was 16 or 17 minutes in total of each of us. Look forward to, Jon, you got into a little bit, but, next will be our podcast with predictions for 2025. And, this may be our last podcast for the year. So, happy holidays to everyone. And we wish you a great holiday season and looking forward to our predictions in 2025. Thank you for joining.